Please welcome Clay Magouyrk.
Thank you all for being here. It's great to see everyone in person. It's great to see all of our customers and partners, as well as everybody that's watching online. It's been a minute since we've all gotten together. I've got a lot of content to go through today. What I would say is that if you're not interested in cloud infrastructure, you're probably going to have a bad time. But if you do like cloud infrastructure, you still might have a bad time, but you also might learn something. So. I think we're really at a place in the cloud that's really about a shift in focus and a shift in the way that we do things. If you go back, it's been 15, 17 years since the cloud really came about. And during that time, we've had a lot of incremental progress. We've had a lot of new services, a lot of new functionality. You've got new regions everywhere. And the value of this has been incredible. But really what I'm going to talk today about is how we bring the power of computing to you. For us to enable all workloads and enable all customers to really get the advantages of the cloud, we have to change how the cloud is delivered, operated, and consumed. Access to the cloud is not just about geography. It's about level of control. It's about the specific proximity to existing applications or other workloads. And in addition to that, as you've heard people like Larry talk about, it's not just about how do you get access to one cloud. We have to make it possible that people can use multiple clouds together. Not just enabling that, we have to make sure that we actually embrace that and make it really easy to do. When the cloud came about, when we really built it from the beginning, it was focused on enabling new applications and new workloads, and it was very successful. There's not a single customer or business that I talk to that doesn't highlight how there's things in their business, innovations they've created, that wouldn't be possible without the benefits of the public cloud. But within OCI, we weren't content just to enable new workloads. Our goal from the beginning was always to be able to say yes to the most demanding workloads, regardless of where they run. Our philosophy has been that instead of 1,000 individual services that try to solve point problems, we need to be able to solve your problems with the fewest number of services and integrated development experience across the board. OCI is growing, and it's growing both in its breadth and its depth. We have more than 40 regions live today around the world, and we have many more coming. But not just more regions, we also have different types of regions. So for example, we have our public cloud commercial regions. We have things like national security regions all around the world to just kind of solve problems for the most sensitive workloads. And then we also are launching our EU sovereign cloud, which is focused on meeting the most stringent European Union regulations available today. Oracle as a company has a very long history of investing in data, analytics, and storage, things that you would kind of take for granted from us. And we're continuing to add functionality there. But in addition to that, we're also investing very heavily in functionality you'd expect for any type of workload across any cloud provider. This consists of things like machine learning and AI, developer services, and application integration. And we've been very busy. And as you can see, the results really speak for themselves. When I talk to customers, they usually start with the assumption, which is true, that OCI is a great place for Oracle workloads. One thing I do want to highlight, though, is that Oracle workloads are actually quite diverse. Some people think of Oracle workloads as just Oracle database, but that's not the way it is. Some people think of Oracle workloads as Oracle applications like eBusiness Suite or JD Edwards. But Oracle workloads are also banking applications and healthcare applications and the most demanding telecommunications workloads. And so when we really started with the idea to make sure that we could solve all the problems for Oracle workloads, it was incredibly a diverse set of requirements of the most demanding applications. So to illustrate some of the progress we've been making here, I'll talk about a few customers that are doing kind of what most people think of as traditional Oracle workloads. Toyota is a great example. They're using our high-performance computing to do computational fluid dynamics so that they can design their next generation of cars. But in addition to that, they also use our database systems to store geospatial data for their in-car navigation system. FedEx uses our analytics, database, as well as custom applications to manage their worldwide logistics fleet. And Exelon is a utility company that serves more than 10 million customers across 6 fully regulated transmission and distribution utilities in the US. All of that runs on OCI today. But more than just OCI being great for Oracle workloads, OCI is also great for all workloads. The way that we know that that's working is not that we just build the functionality and we do some kind of assessment and decide that it's great. The way that we know that it's working is we're seeing the growth of customers, we're seeing the adoption of the technology, and we're seeing deeper and deeper integrations into our ecosystem. So to highlight how this is working, I'll take a few minutes here and go through some great customer examples to show what customers are using on our platform and the value they're getting from what we've created. To start with, let's talk about the University of Jena. Their goal is to understand how earthquakes behave. They're using computational fluid dynamics to create models to understand earthquake behavior. They needed a performant and affordable solution, and our Ampere A1 compute platform provided that for them. The Sounders Football Club uses our autonomous database to store spatial data about the movements of their players and the ball. They then use data science predictive models to actually analyze how they can improve their performance, and they use Oracle Analytics to then visualize those solutions. Nibio uses drones to capture video images of forests. They then create machine learning models to understand and optimize which parts of the forest are healthy and which parts are unhealthy. They can go in and tactically improve the health of the forest in general. SoundHound is all about voice experience. Some of the most important brands in the world, like Mercedes, Hyundai, Pandora, and White Castle, run on top of SoundHound's platform. As of now, SoundHound runs more than 1 billion AI transactions a month on top of OCI. Estuda.com is Brazil's leading educational technology provider. They needed lower latency access to their data so that they wouldn't have tests timing out on students. The way they achieved this is they moved their workload to MySQL HeatWave and achieved over 300 times faster query responses for their application. Thomson Reuters wanted to put together a set of financial cloud services on our platform. They needed a performant platform to build and host a solution, and to do so, they were able to make use of our development services to manage the deployments. They got high performance with things like our autonomous database, and they use many more of our other services. SailGP is the fastest boats on the water. Their boats are streaming thousands of data points a second from their boats into our cloud. They use this data for race strategy, for fan experience, as well as anomaly detection. Using OCI, they're able to achieve less than a 200 millisecond latency from their boats into our cloud. Aon is a company that's been growing, and as they've been growing, they've also been making mergers and acquisitions. The result of this is they have many disparate data sources across their business. For them to be able to get a unified view, they were able to consolidate these many data sources into our autonomous database, and therefore make better business decisions for them. And there are many more that I could talk about. But rather than go through 100 individual customer examples, I think it would be more useful for us to talk to one of our most interesting and exciting customers. To do that, please help me welcome Kelsey Szot, co-founder and product lead of Adept. Thanks for coming. So, Kelsey, as you know, Adept is a leading AI company. You might have heard of them.
Indeed.
Can you tell us a bit more about the hard problems that you're trying to solve at Adept, and what kind of technology you need to use to solve those problems?
Totally. So it's a very exciting time to be working in machine learning. I think ML people will always tell you that, but now is really something special. We started Adept in January with a team from Google, DeepMind, and OpenAI, and we've all been struck by this paradigm shift we've seen in the industry over the last few years. See, the typical recipe for machine learning that many folks in this room have probably implemented in their enterprise is you identify a specific task or use case, say translating language or something like that. You collect a large amount of training data for that task, in this case, examples of text in different languages, and then you train a model for that task. And you spend a ton of time optimizing and handcrafting that model so that is purpose-built for the task at hand. And then when you want to apply ML to another use case in your organization, you rinse and repeat. You kind of start from scratch and you go through the same process again. Now, what we've seen recently, which is really exciting, is if you take a certain type of neural network called a transformer, and you train it on the internet, a vast amount of unlabeled data that's not specific to any task, and then you give it just a few hundred or a few thousand examples of your task, like translation, all of a sudden that model can be more capable than the model that you spent years and millions of training examples building. And not only that, but if you give that same model 1,000 examples of a different type of task, like summarizing text or classifying queries or whatever use case you're working on, in many cases, that model is actually better at those tasks as well. And so you end up with these, what we call foundation models, which are these large-scale, generally capable models that both outperform task-specific models we built in the past, and also unlock capabilities that have never before been possible. So folks in the audience may have heard of some of these developments. We've seen incredible work in things like protein folding with models like AlphaFold. Folks may have heard of GPT-3, which is a foundation model for language that can do a wide variety of text-type tasks. Or most recently, we've seen a lot of exciting work in foundation models for images. So you have a model like DALL-E or Imagine or Stable Diffusion, where you can give the model a caption like a cute corgi sitting in a house made of sushi, and it will give you a picture of that, even though it doesn't actually exist. And so at Adept, what we're doing is building one of these foundation models, but instead of for text or images or protein folding, it's for actions. And we're training a model how to use every piece of software on your computer so that you can interact with your computer just by using human language.
That sounds a little bit complicated, but
A little bit.
no, in all seriousness, I remember when we first started working together, it seems like it was yesterday. I feel it's been a little bit longer than that. But can you share with everyone a little bit more about how you're actually using OCI to enable that?
Mm-hmm. Totally. Well, many folks here this week have been Oracle customers for a long time. We are a startup who's been around for 10 months. And I think what comes with that is we really start with a clean sheet when it comes to thinking about who to partner with for this work we're doing. And for us, because these models are at the root of our business, infrastructure is critical. And we've worked really closely with OCI to build this cluster of thousands of interconnected GPUs that allow us to train these extremely large-scale models efficiently and effectively. And it's in close collaboration with folks on your team, Clay, and folks at NVIDIA that we've been able to build our first model called Act 1 that is showing capabilities we've never seen before with this technology. And we've just been incredibly impressed with OCI and their ability to not just address use cases of today, but to really pull forward the future with us and to work on the next era of machine learning, which is what we're entering into right now.
So clearly you have a lot of work to do, and you're very passionate about the future. Where do you see this space heading, and what do you need from cloud providers to continue to enable this type of great work that you're doing?
Mm-hmm. So one thing that's been really exciting with these models is we've seen that predictably they get better and better with more and more scale. And this both comes in the form of data and also compute. And so it's really important as we look ahead that this is a partnership that we forge very closely as we continue to scale these models up. In terms of what these models will be able to do in the future, I think we're just scratching the surface of impacts this can have on the enterprise. But one area in particular that I'm really excited about is how this will change the way we collaborate with our computers. Since computers have existed, we've been doing this translation between human language and a language that our computer can understand. This started with things like punch cards or early programming languages. And it's come a long way since then. Now a lot of us use GUIs, these graphical user interfaces that pop up if you go to a website or you use a piece of software. But we still do a surprising amount of translating when we use these tools, whether it's clicking or dragging or dropping or finding this menu or typing this formula. There's a lot we have to do to get these tools to work for us. And one thing I'm really excited about into the future and what we're working on at Adept is building an overlay to the tools that you use today that allow you to skip this translation step, to just express in human language what you're looking for and have that software do that for you. So I think 5 years from now, we're going to look back at how we squinted at our spreadsheet writing a VLOOKUP formula or spent the first 2 weeks of a new job just learning how the software systems work and just think it was crazy. I mean, I think it's really going to change the way that we interact with computers in every part of our lives. It's going to make us more efficient, more creative, more capable. And I think it's partnering with infrastructure providers like OCI, which is going to really pave this future together. So there's a lot to be excited about as we look ahead.
Well, Kelsey, I can't wait for the days when I don't have to struggle with VLOOKUP. But thank you for coming out today. It was really great to hear about all the interesting and exciting things you're doing at Adept.
Thank you, Clay.
So we've talked a lot about what we have been doing at OCI. What I also want to do is highlight areas where we're continuing to innovate. We've got a really incredible platform, but it's not possible to ever stop. The demands of our industry require us to constantly be evolving. We need more features, more functionality. There's far too many for me to cover here in totality. What I want to do is take a minute and talk about some of our most important and impactful changes that you'll be seeing from us come out in the next little while. So I don't think that I have to tell you how important containers are. But in the container space, we have two big announcements. One is around serverless Kubernetes, which is really about how do I remove the need for you to actually manage servers inside your Kubernetes cluster. In addition to that, we're also coming out with OCI container instances, which is focused on a similar experience to VMs or bare metal, but now you can just have that experience with a container such that you don't have to do things like worry about the operating system or patch it or that kind of stuff yourself. As you just heard from Kelsey, as you heard yesterday from Jensen with Safra, we're investing very heavily into machine learning and AI. And so we've been working on what we're calling our GPU superclusters. What we've been doing is working hard to make sure that we can enable the largest GPU clusters required. Our next generation of platform is going to support 20,000 GPUs with over 13 petabits per second of network bandwidth across the cluster. The net result is that these GPU superclusters are the largest supercomputers available anywhere on the planet. Our Oracle database strategy has always been a converged database strategy. As new database models came out, whether it was things like object database or geospatial database or graph database, we've always taken that technology and added it to Oracle so that you can get everything you need in one converged database. Well, over the past few years, document databases have also become popular, and MongoDB is the dominant document database available. We're announcing MongoDB compatibility such that you can actually take a MongoDB application, point it at Oracle database, and it will work unchanged. In doing so, but you then get all the benefits that Oracle is known for in terms of backup, recovery, availability, et cetera. MySQL HeatWave is a huge investment area for us, as many of you know. But we're also coming out with MySQL HeatWave Lakehouse. And the idea behind this is really about bringing the immense value of the HeatWave Query Accelerator to all of your data, whether it's in MySQL itself or stored in Object Store. We'll support multiple file formats. It enables larger data sizes and different types of queries. It also enables you to use data from other clouds. Think of this as a unified query engine across your OLTP and OLAP data, along with machine learning and your data lake workloads. So you've already heard us talk a bit about how much we're investing in Oracle database and MySQL database and things like HeatWave. Well, we're also investing very heavily into Postgres. We're coming out with a managed Postgres service And that service will have everything you'd expect from a managed service. You can create, do lifecycle operations, backup, restore, patch, scale up, scale down. But in addition to that, we're also developing a highly optimized database-aware storage service that we're calling Aries. In combination, Postgres with Aries enables better reliability, higher performance, and more efficiency compared to vanilla Postgres on its own. Another area that we've been investing in very heavily is what we're calling privacy assurance. And it's a little bit different than what I've been talking about because it's not a single service or a single set of features. Privacy assurance is really a conglomeration of functionality we're adding to our security portfolio, our governance portfolio, as well as configurations of our platform. Think of it as a trust framework that solves for privacy protection, data sovereignty, and control. Privacy assurance introduces a privacy-protected tenancy, protocol-agnostic network perimeter protection, and an integrated trust center. With all of those things, privacy assurance ensures that protected data never leaves the trust boundary. It also audits how data is accessed and handled, and it automates your compliance reports. So for all of those that joined late, as a recap, we've covered where OCI has come from, we've covered a lot of the previous investments that we've made, and we also are covering significant investments that you're going to see from us coming forward, kind of this incremental evolutionary approach. You've seen customers using our cloud and how they've been able to create amazing products and experiences using that technology. Public cloud, from my perspective, is probably the single greatest technology accelerator that's come about in our industry in the past few decades. And the reality is many businesses and innovations just would not exist, were not possible without the functionality and the acceleration that we've been able to provide with the public cloud. But what's interesting is that only 30% or so of workloads can take advantage of all of this great technology that we've been creating. The fact that technology exists does not mean that the technology has been adopted or can be adopted or is used. The cloud has been around for quite some time. And so if we compare it to some other technology, like the smartphone that came out in the same era, why is it that the cloud is only at 30% adoption and the vast majority of people that want a smartphone today have access to one? The reason for that is it can be complicated. There are legal reasons. You have privacy laws, regulatory requirements, and restrictions around data control. There are technical barriers, things like latency, performance, availability concerns. And then there's also economic restrictions. And by that I mean, every customer I talk to has big concerns on what's my migration cost. But even once they're done migrating, many customers say the bill is much more expensive than I was expecting it was going to be. The right cloud partner can make this much simpler. For companies that embark on a cloud journey, the choice of the right partner is critical. Many customers have unsupportive cloud partners, and these customers find themselves stuck questioning their decisions in the past and the future decisions that they feel like they have to make, but don't necessarily want to. The model that most cloud providers give you is a very simple one. You have your data center, we have our cloud, and you should take all of your stuff from your data center and just bring it to our public cloud. And where they have some transitory solutions, maybe they have something to help you run it for a little while in your data center to bring the cloud a little bit to you, it's fundamentally a stopgap. The overall message is take your stuff, bring it to the public cloud. At Oracle, we have a different approach. We have multiple pieces that actually are focused on bringing the cloud to you. We have our comprehensive edge portfolio. We also have our cloud at customer set of technology with things like Exadata Cloud at Customer, as well as OCI Dedicated Region. And then something else we're going to talk about today is for those that need complete infrastructure control, we've created Oracle Alloy. We could stop there. As a cloud provider, this is a relatively comprehensive set of functionality. You have the edge, you've got the core, you've got a great public cloud set of functionality, but we don't think that's enough. We think we also have to make it really easy to enable other clouds and our cloud to actually work together. And so we've been working on specific functionality to connect our cloud to other people's clouds. And in addition to all of that, it doesn't work if we don't also have predictable and controlled costs. Performance does actually matter. I sometimes have this conversation with different analysts, and they say, hey, no one cares about performance. Well, everyone cares about cost, and performance is cost in the long run with infrastructure. But not just the cost itself, but also how can you control it and how do you have flexibility? And so everything that you see on this picture, whether it be our Cloud at Customer, our Edge platform, Public Cloud, Alloy, you consume it the same way, you govern it with the same set of tools, and you purchase it using a very simple and flexible universal credits model. We're calling that the new distributed cloud. And this is what we believe is required to move adoption from the 30% we're at today to the 90+% that it should be to really accelerate the future of what we all need to do in our businesses. So with that said, what I'm going to do now is dive into a few of these areas and talk about the investments that we're making and the problems that we're trying to solve. Well, we're going to start with Dedicated Region. So in some ways, Dedicated Region is actually quite simple. The way you do it is you find a customer. It should be a big customer. You ask them to write you a check for a few $100 million. You then go get a really big data center, and you get a few hundred racks, and you install it in that data center, and then you say, hey, you're the only customer I'm going to let use your cloud. We tried that. The downside was that nobody wanted it. So we went back to the drawing board. Instead, we thought it would be better if we made it smaller, cheaper, and more flexible. Along the way, we learned how to build mini regions, we learned how to build them more quickly, and we also learned how to operate all of these regions in a highly reliable way. Fundamentally, Dedicated Region easily fits into your existing data center. In addition to the physical hardware, it comes with an SLA for on-site support, the same performance and availability SLAs as our public cloud, and it also gives you automatic connection to our fully encrypted global Oracle backbone. The procurement model is really simple. You have a commitment in terms of overall dollars. Once that's done, we're responsible for deploying the Dedicated Region and doing things like managing capacity. Because it's in your data center, you now have a high bandwidth, low latency access to your existing applications. And in addition, you also have the same physical and regulatory controls in place with Dedicated Region that were already true for your existing workloads. One of the most important features and factors in OCI Dedicated Region is that what functionality is included. A lot of other offerings have a massively simplified set of features and functionality. And so one of the things I talk to customers is they ask me, well, what's included in OCI Dedicated Region? And I tell them, well, everything that's available in our public cloud. But oftentimes, they don't believe me. So I thought here, I would just give you a list of all of the stuff that is available in our public cloud. And for completeness, I thought it would also be good to show you a list of all the stuff that's not included in OCI Dedicated Region. So we've talked a lot about what OCI Dedicated Region is, what problem it's trying to solve. I think now it would be great to hear from a customer. And so please welcome Scott Petty, the Chief Technology Officer of Vodafone.
Thanks for coming, Scott. Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So Scott, you know a little bit more about telecommunications than I do. Can you share with everyone kind of what are the big opportunities that you see coming up and coming available in the telecommunications industry, and how that's how you're thinking about that at Vodafone?
Yeah, sure. I think in telecoms, it's really make or break time for our industry. On the positive side, I think we all learned through the pandemic, our services are pretty important if we want society to keep running. We're seeing continued acceleration in consumption, and that's just going to keep growing with new 5G applications, things like metaverse and virtual reality, etc. On the flip side, as an industry, we struggle to grow faster than inflation in the markets that we operate in, and that creates cost pressures. And there's a really price competitive environment that we're trying to work within. Within Vodafone, we really think secret to success for us is going to be based around our digital transformation. And we look at that transformation in 3 lenses. The first, really internally focused. How do we optimize our processes? How do we make us more efficient as an organization? Using a lot of data analytics, a lot of machine learning, applying it to pretty much every process in the company, from network planning, where to build masts, where to add capacity, through commercial operations, what's the next best offer for our customers, how do we win market share through those environments, through to customer care, makes us a faster, better, more importantly, cheaper organization. And in the last 3 years, we've been able to take out about 600 million of OPEX using those kind of capabilities in our transformation. The second lens is all about how we look after and service our customers. Digital channels now for us are our biggest channel. They're overtaken retail and contact center as the way to sell to our customers, to service the products they buy from us. And how we perform, particularly through big commercial events, iPhone launch day, that dictates whether we win market share through that technology refresh cycle or we lose market share. So investing in our capabilities in digital channels is really important for our revenue growth and top line performance. The third, and for me the most exciting, is building scale platforms that allow us to find revenue growth in adjacent markets. I'll give you a couple of examples. We have a global IoT platform connecting more than 150 million devices to our platform across the world. In Africa, we run M-Pesa with Africa's largest payments system, more than 50 million customers leveraging our payments capabilities every day. And in Europe, we'd have been able to win a bigger share of wallet from our customers with device financing and insurance services. So building new sources of revenue, be able to open up new opportunities. Those are already 10% of our revenue today, but they're growing at 15 to 18%. So in my view, they're really the secret of how we're going to grow as an organization and be ready for the next technology investment cycle.
Well, it's great to hear about what the opportunities are coming forward. How do you see OCI Dedicated Region helping you kind of meet and exceed with those opportunities?
Sure. Well, we've had a cloud-first strategy for 4 or 5 years, and of course, everything new that we build in channels and new capabilities, we build into the cloud. That's logical, and I think everybody does that. But like all big organizations, we have a heritage of a state of applications and capabilities that are really important to our business, and I don't like to call them legacy because the business runs on them. If we take them away, then we don't operate as a company. But we need to find ways to modernize those and upgrade them, lower our lifecycle management costs, and find better ways to support the business. And we started looking for how could we modernize that estate, take advantage of cloud, but give us optionality in the way that we looked after those applications. And in the end, we chose Oracle OCI Dedicated Region because it enabled us to take all of the benefits of cloud, autonomous database, scaling, dramatically reduce our lifecycle management costs, improve our operational performance. But we could choose when and how we moved the application. If the business was ready for a transformation and could afford it, great, we'll uplift it, we'll modernize the application. If it can't, it can stay where it is. It can stay in our data center, but it can still leverage all of the benefits that we have. And that optionality allows us to drive change in a pace that the business can afford and can absorb, but still end up in a cloud-native strategy as we complete the decade.
Completely makes sense to me. We've been working together on this for quite a while. Can you share some more specific details about the current status of the project and how things have gone?
Sure. So we've got about 6,000 Oracle databases and a few thousand applications that sit on top of those. So to build that footprint, we're building 6 dedicated regions across our European footprint, connected in realms, so we get resiliency and all the capabilities that we need. We've gone live with our first dedicated region in Milan, and we've been migrating production workloads as well as test and pre-prod workloads over the last few weeks. And I have to say, we're really impressed with the performance and the capabilities that go with that. We've also been able to decommission a whole set of infrastructure that we don't need anymore because we've got better scaling to support us. So project's going really well. We'll, over the next couple of months, complete our builds in Dublin and in Germany, and we'll start migrating about 6 databases every day.
No, that's great to hear. It's always exciting to see these projects come from the very beginning to where we're actually running stuff in production on them. What sorts of regulatory changes are happening in your industry, and how do you think we can use technology like Dedicated Region to solve them?
Telecoms has always been a pretty regulated industry anyway. We have lots to do with legal intercept and the way that we support government services. Dedicated Region makes it easier for us to support those applications, particularly on old heritage applications that we can't yet upgrade. But I think we're going to see a real big growth in sovereign cloud as well, where governments, particularly the European government, will set very strict rules, and then specific countries. Turkey is a good example in Europe, where you have to build infrastructure in your data center in that country to be able to run those applications and telecommunications. And again, Dedicated Region gives us that optionality of where we run things, how we move them, and we can move at our pace to support that.
Well, Scott, thanks for coming today. I really appreciate the conversation, and it's I'm excited for all the work we have, going forward. We've got 5 more dedicated regions to launch.
Thanks, Clay. Thanks for the great partnership.
It's always great to hear when it's one thing to sit and you come up with a product. It's very different when you actually launch it, and then the proof shows up when you actually start moving real workloads to it. And I'm very thankful to have Scott here to share that with us. We're not stopping here, though. We've talked about how we're actually, we've done a lot of investment to get from the hundreds of racks down to tens of racks, and now we're at a place with Dedicated Region where we can actually have all of our functionality in a 12-rack footprint. But we think we can do a lot more. Our vision and our goal is to be able to take everything available in our public cloud and put it into a single rack. And that's something we've been working on for quite some time, and we've been making steady progress against it. And I think it's important to recognize that opens up a ton of new possibilities. For example, suddenly you can have a region in every city, not just in specific countries. Suddenly you don't have to make a choice between edge versus core. The same services and functionality are available everywhere, and you get real true edge and core convergence across the platform. So we've talked about Dedicated Region and how great it is. Along the way, we knew we'd have to build more flexibly sized regions, and we have to build them more quickly, and we would need far more of them. The net effect of all of this is that we're bringing the full power of OCI right next to your existing applications. It's all about bringing the cloud to you. As Scott mentioned at the end of his talk, there's continually more and more regulation around things with the expectation about more and more infrastructure control. We've talked a lot about the benefits that public cloud gives you, but one of the most fundamental trade-offs that happens when you go to the public cloud is a trade-off about control. For most use cases, that change in control is okay, but there are some situations where greater control of the infrastructure is required to be able to bring the functionality of the cloud to those workloads. All of us use critical infrastructure and software platforms every day. Critical infrastructure like telecommunications, utilities, energy generation, they're everywhere. Critical infrastructure in general tends to be much more heavily regulated, and it is diverse in its implementations. Software platforms, on the other hand, tend to be dominated by a few very large players. They have a much smaller physical component, and they also tend to have far fewer regulations. What makes cloud complicated is that it's both. Cloud is both critical infrastructure as well as a massive software platform. And from our perspective as a cloud provider, and from the perspective of many of the customers that I talk to, there's a gap in the industry that we've not figured out how to solve. If you view the cloud as needing to fill this critical infrastructure role, and we do, there are things that have to change about how it's delivered and operated. So, in the previous example where we talk about something like telecommunications, you're going to need localized control, and localized control always requires localized operators. What this means over time is that to really fill this critical infrastructure role, we believe that you have to have a change such that there's a new role of a cloud operator that can intermediate between the cloud provider and consumers. This is not true for all workloads, it's not true for all use cases, but this is an unmet gap in the market. And along with that new role comes a new set of requirements. For example, a cloud operator needs to be able to control when software and hardware is deployed to their cloud. They need to be able to extend the platform. What this means is that cloud operators don't want to operate just for the fun of it. They always have some highly differentiated reason, whether it's regulatory awareness, physical changes, or differentiated IP. They need to be able to add that to the platform itself. You need, fundamentally, to actually control where data lives and where it transfers. And then, of course, cloud operators need to be able to customize what they're doing, set their prices, control the user experience and how it's branded. We call that Oracle Alloy. Oracle Alloy is our platform that enables other people to become a cloud operator themselves. And the reason we called it Alloy is it's all about bringing the best that we have to offer at Oracle and combining it with the best that our cloud operator, our localized operators and partners will have, such that together we actually have a cloud that has more strength than either of the two individually. So rather than talk about it more, why don't I show you what it looks like? This is an example of a fully customized set of OCI functionality for end customers. It has the same look and feel and the user experience that those end customers expect. And within this example, the cloud operator has the ability to customize the user experience, functionality like customer notifications, emails that are sent to customers, even things like the documentation, as well as control how dashboards and color schemes work. In addition, you need to be able to operate this. What that means is you need to be able to control how changes are deployed, when are they deployed, and the rate at which they're deployed. You need to be able to support your customers. You have to have a platform that enables you to understand your customers, allow them to communicate with you and talk about the problems when they arise. And you also need a way to stay compliant across all of your regulations. You have the need to be able to manage your business. You have to control the cost of the platform. You need to be able to set prices, control rate cards and discount levels. You also need analytics to understand things like the utilization rate, what metrics around both operational telemetry and business telemetry. And also you need to be able to look at customer patterns so you can understand what your customers are doing so you can better serve their needs. As I mentioned about the ability to extend functionality, the first way is you need to be able to create new services that are fully integrated into the Oracle Alloy experience. To do that, we're giving you the exact same set of tools and platforms that we use to build OCI services today. The net result is that you can build services and functionality with your differentiated IP that sit alongside the cloud. They show up in the console, their APIs look the same, the SDKs are generated the same way, the command line interface is also integrated. But we didn't stop with just software. We also heard from customers that they have unique hardware needs that they need to add that functionality to the cloud platform. This could be, for example, with compute platforms, but it also can be storage devices, network devices, or accelerated computing, whether it be GPUs or something completely custom. And we've achieved this by having a very flexible virtualized networking infrastructure that allows you to plug in hardware, and then you can have customized services for managing the lifecycle and deployment of that same hardware. So we've talked about the need for Oracle Alloy, and I've shown you some great demonstrations of what it looks like and how it will work. To better understand from a specific customer about why they think it's so important, we have a video from Kelsey Szot, Chief Enterprise and Innovative Solutions Officer from Telecom Italia.
Time is the only resource that you will never be able to buy. I'm Kelsey Szot, and I'm the head of the end-to-end enterprise business. Team Enterprise is a team business unit providing ICT services to public and private companies in Italy. Our wish is to become the only platform in the country able to provide at 360 degrees all kind of ICT services, starting from connectivity moving to colocation, so data centers, cloud and cloud applications, IoT, and cybersecurity. We believe that the recipe for success is to have a multi-cloud approach, and on this, we see Oracle being aligned to this perspective. A mix of a private, public, and hybrid cloud is the right recipe to foster flexibility and innovation across the country. So this basically means that going forward, we will need to improve even further our capability to work together and to do it faster. We will have less and less time to accelerate the digital transformation. So in conclusion, our mission together should be give time back to people. We should manage to do this by providing them with the opportunity to use that time to push their business forward, to use that time for doing something different. The best thing we can do together is to listen to them. We need to listen to our customers, understand their needs, their challenges, their problems, even their ambitions and passions, and together build solutions accordingly.
I think probably a lot of you are wondering, well, that's great, but what if I don't want to be a cloud provider? I told you in the beginning, remember I said you might still have a bad time, so you got to listen to that section. The reality is it does matter. I think it matters. And I think it matters for some very clear reasons. Increased competition among cloud providers creates better products and lower prices. There are lots of areas where infrastructure control is required to get the data privacy and data security that's needed to actually solve the workload needs. If we don't have that, the power of the cloud is then not enabled for those workloads. So you may have workloads where you need access to that, and you don't want to be the cloud operator yourself, but you can take advantage of the cloud in those areas. And then all of us are also customers. We're all consumers. And going back to the point earlier, only 30% of workloads can actually take advantage of the innovation that we've all been working on for the past 15, 20 years. In that case, the more that we can actually bring cloud to those workloads, we all benefit as customers and consumers. Everything that you use, there's tons of systems we all use every day, and we go, okay, why isn't this better? There are valid reasons, and Oracle Alloy is really about solving that problem. We've talked about Oracle Cloud, why it's great. But no matter how good we are, no matter what we build, the reality is there are going to be other cloud services that offer unique value. And so we've been focused very heavily on how do we actually make it easy to get that value, whether you're an OCI customer or you're a customer of a different cloud provider. And rather than just trying to enable it, it's about how do we embrace it and push the industry forward and how we should think about multi-cloud as a paradigm. A few years ago when I talked to customers, many of them say, hey, I'm only going to have one cloud provider. When I talk to customers today, customers either already have multiple cloud providers or they say that we're definitely going to have multiple cloud providers. There's been a sea change in the way that people are thinking about this. And so the customers are adopting multiple clouds, but no one's really solving many of their hardest problems for them. So let's take a look at the multi-cloud investments that we've been making over the past few years. We have our cloud, and we've been doing a lot of work to actually connect our cloud to other clouds. The first thing we started with was about how do we take our fundamentally differentiated services and how do we make them available with other clouds? The reason we started there, hopefully it's obvious, but if it's not, Oracle has a long history of highly differentiated services, specifically around things like database, and many of our customers were asking, hey, I like these services, please bring them to me where I need them. We started with the OCI Azure Interconnect a few years ago. It was our first multi-cloud partnership, and it was really focused on how do we integrate ourselves at the network layer, at the identity layer, at the support and operations layer. And it was very successful. We had a lot of customers that used the interconnection, joint Azure and OCI customers. But one of the most common pieces of feedback that we received is they say, hey, I like it, but I really would like a much more integrated experience. So we listened to these customers, and this summer we launched Oracle Database Service for Azure, which is really about bringing the full power of Oracle Database Services to the Azure ecosystem. We made it easy to provision and secure and operate these Oracle databases right alongside workloads that you might be running in Azure. But we didn't stop with just provisioning and attaching it to your privatized virtual network. We also went further. We made it so that your logging stuff showed up in Azure Logging Service, your telemetry shows up in the Azure Telemetry Service, and then we also went and said, hey, we want to make sure this is integrated in a first-class way, such that if you're using a tool like, say, Azure Synapse, how is it easy to connect to Oracle Database Service for Azure? We've taken a similar but different approach with MySQL HeatWave on AWS. We launched MySQL HeatWave on OCI. It's been I don't know if it's exactly a year or not, but it's a little while ago. And the interesting part is that many of our earliest customers were actually AWS customers. They loved the platform, they loved the ease of use, they loved the fact that the massive query accelerator, upgraded their application with no application changes and things were better and faster. But what they did say to us was it would be really nice if this was actually made available in my ecosystem rather than I have to move my whole workload to OCI. So what we did is we brought the functionality of MySQL HeatWave to AWS. And now we're doing the exact same thing with MySQL HeatWave for Azure. The exact same integrations we've done with Oracle Database Service for Azure. Telemetry integrations, logging, integration tools. We're bringing that same exact experience into the MySQL HeatWave for Azure experience. And I think it's important to recognize that, this is about ease of use in multiple factors. It's not just that we're making it easy to get MySQL HeatWave in Azure. If you're a customer of MySQL and you have an existing application, it's so easy now to just point that application at MySQL with HeatWave with 0 changes, and things just get way better. We're not content to only offer our services to other clouds. It's important, and it was our first step, but it's not where we think it's not where the end is. We also have many of our customers that use other cloud providers, and they need to be able to take some of the functionality from those clouds and bring them into OCI. And in addition to that, we also have lots of customers who use clouds kind of interoperability. And what they've asked us to do is, hey, it would be great if there was a much smoother transition when I'm using different clouds. So we took on that challenge as well. To show you how we're thinking about this, I'm going to bring on stage Sudha Raghavan, Vice President of OCI. And she's been working with our engineering teams on how do we actually realize this next generation of multi-cloud experience. So please welcome Sudha. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Clay. As I continue the story that Clay has been talking about for multi-cloud, I'm here to show a quick demo about what OCI is doing in this space. Today's demo will show all of you 3 things. First, how we make it easy for customers to choose cloud providers and services. Second, how we make it easy to integrate it into what you already have. And last but not the least, how OCI helps you save some time and money. Now, let's get on with the show. We're going to talk here about Marine Nav, a marine navigation company and an AWS customer. This customer navigates ships, Marine Nav. navigating ships is a little bit more complex than navigating cars. There isn't traffic, but there are currents, weather, lots of complex calculations to do. MarineNav runs an app backed by an AWS service. The service is straightforward, uses EC2 compute instances for running their worker nodes, uses a queue in the backend, and finally, the data is stored in an RDS cluster. Let's take a look at how this looks on AWS console. Here we go. We are on AWS homepage. We get to our instances, and we are here to show you that the app worker, as I called it, is actually in a running state on EC2. Next, we look at the queue that was established for this worker. Very aptly named production queue. It is a standard SQS queue. Last but not the least, we're going to take a look at how RDS implementation for this system works. Again, go to the DB instances, look at the RDS cluster, very correctly named production DB, get in the configuration, and see there is just one database, which is called NavDB. So that's the company's current setup.
So great. We've done a great advertisement for AWS's console. Is there something about OCI we should talk about, maybe?
Absolutely, Clay. This is, after all, Oracle CloudWorld, isn't it? All right, so now MarineNav wants to expand their business. They've been doing commercial sailing, but they now want to get into recreational sailing. So this means hopefully a lot more volume for their service, but also a few new computations. They have to add tacking and a few new strategies to their compute. They've already invested quite a lot in EC2, and they're worried that the costs are only going to keep increasing. They've heard of this new cloud called OCI, which is high performance and also price competitive. But they are a very small company. They do not want to have two clouds to deal with for their IT and operations. This is what we at OCI have been trying to help our customers with. Make it simple and make it as integrated as possible. Let me show you how OCI is making it easy to connect with AWS in just a few clicks to set up the ecosystem to expand. Here we are, OCI console, Clay, and we get into AWS, configuration for it, and we're going to link our AWS account to our OCI account. Just with those few clicks, we're now establishing a virtual private high-speed connection between OCI and AWS. Just to check everything is working, I did check that the queue was still present, whatever I set up in AWS. Last, I'm going to the database. Now, wouldn't it be cool if this database could, within a few clicks, get connected to an OCI virtual network? There we had it, few clicks, and now it's connected to the OCI virtual network with an IP address in the OCI space. Of course, the engineer in me wants to be absolutely sure. So I open up Cloud Shell right from here, and I am checking all the Postgres DBs that are present at that IP address. And voila, I do find NavDB. This thing is really working.
So I just want to make sure I understand, because you moved very fast there. What I think you're saying is you're able to attach your AWS account to OCI.
Absolutely.
You can attach your AWS services to OCI, and you now have completely secure native access to, say, your Aurora database or your SQS environment, and many more services are possible. And the idea is now, from within OCI, you can actually access that database natively. It could be, but this could apply to any service.
Absolutely. Now, let's get on to the final part of the demo. The service has to actually scale, and I have to create a new OCI instance which mimics the exact work that the app worker that we saw on EC2 does. Let me show you how easy it is to do that final part. So here we go. We're back to the same Cloud Shell that we stopped at. We're going to use AWS SDK, something the customer is absolutely familiar with their environment, change the endpoint to have oraclecloud.com in it. That's all they're doing, all parameters, everything as AWS. And now, with that click, I have created a compute instance in OCI running the exact same workload that was running in AWS. It was that simple. Isn't that great?
Well, maybe. Make sure I understand. So you're saying you can take the same EC2 command line, point it at OCI, and give it the same AMI ID, and transparently behind the scenes, we'll copy the AMI over, configure it for OCI, launch the computer, and then because DNS worked properly, it can have native access to the same private database it had running on AWS?
Absolutely.
Well, that's an incredible amount of work you've been doing, Szot. Really hats off to you and the team.
Thank you. Now to bring it all home, the last piece, we did say integrated, didn't we? Which means the customer still can use AWS for their IT professionals to observe both AWS and the OCI instance in one single pane of glass. Let me show you how the observability piece works for this use case. Here we go. Again, AWS console, but now we're looking at CloudWatch. You can see very clearly the AWS instance and the OCI instance are both emitting metrics to CloudWatch, can be watched side by side, and you can really see that they're performing almost equal. This is showing the low latency connection that we actually have because the worker doesn't see the difference between connecting to a database inside AWS versus connecting from OCI to the database in AWS.
No, Szot, this is really great. I think that with technology like this, you can see how you can easily migrate and pick and choose different services and different workloads between clouds. And something else that I think that is really important for people to understand about this is as we create these connections, there are no data egress fees. So it's a completely high bandwidth, highly secure connection between clouds, but there's no charge to access data, whether it's from whether you're accessing it from other cloud to us or us to other clouds. There's no data transfer fees in this model.
Absolutely. Now to bring it home, this whole ecosystem is very personal to me. I watch a lot of streaming television. I'm hoping like most of you do as well. I'm also an immigrant, which means I don't not only watch US live sports, NFL, F1 racing, but I also watch international sports, cricket. I also like to watch my share of on-demand TV. Now, our streaming providers, some of them have done a fantastic job at integrating this whole thing and providing me with one interface, allowing me to choose what I want to, irrespective of the technology backing it. Wouldn't it be great if cloud services were doing that? That is exactly what we've been doing at OCI for our multi-cloud solution. Simple, easy, and integrated solutions.
Szot, thank you for coming out. It was really good to see all the stuff you've been working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay.
So in our city analogy here, you can see the connections we've already made. You can see database service for Azure, you can see HeatWave for Azure, and you can see things like HeatWave for AWS. But we're not going to stop here. What you should expect to see from us is continued innovation in this space. What I mean by that is that's going to be more services connected to other cloud providers, both from us to them and them to us. It's going to be deeper integrations such that the lines between the clouds really become sufficiently blurred. And it also means we'll be adding new cloud partners, right? New cloud platforms to our portfolio so that you get this same value across more and more cloud providers. We started off by covering incremental evolutionary change, and we're doing a lot of that at OCI. We're building more regions, we have more services, we're adding more features all the time. We also talked about 3 major investments. OCI Dedicated Region, which is bringing the power of the cloud to every customer where they are. Oracle Alloy, which is really about how do you solve for workloads that need true infrastructure control. And then with Szot, we talked about how we can really change what multi-cloud means to other people. In closing, I want to talk a little bit about the reason that I work at Oracle, why I work on cloud infrastructure, and the opportunity that's available to all of us. I've been working on cloud infrastructure for most of my professional life, and I genuinely believe that it's the highest productivity enhancement we have available to us over the past few decades. The reality is only 30% of workloads can take advantage of that. And so the goal that we have at Oracle, my personal goal, why I wake up and do what I do every day, is how do we bring the benefits of the cloud to all of those workloads, to all customers. And when we do that, we all win together. I want to say it's been really exciting to be here with you today. I look forward greatly to what we're going to be doing in the future and all the great advancements to come. And thank you, everybody.